From a Gen X point of view is brought to you today by
Podbelly.com. Go to podbelly.com for all your podcasting needs. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Wow, you're very unenthused about the Podbelly this week.
I'm looking right at the Podbelly. How you doing on the screen, because we're doing remote, right? So yep. I'm looking at the Podbelly thing, and I'm like, I should really come up with something, and then like, oh no, now it's time to talk about it. So I'm not. I got nothing. So
all right, fair enough. Go to podbelly.com, see all of our friends there, the Escape Pod, Used and Abused, all of those good podcasts. And while you do that, we are going to be sitting here buried under snow as a nice nor'easter is blowing through as we speak. It's snowing outside right this fucking second, which is why we're doing a remote show today.
Yep.
As you can see on the YouTubes, Dave and I are not co-located in the studio. Didn't want to subject him to driving in these wintry conditions.
I did end up having to drive a little bit today, and it was an absolute shit show.
Yeah. So we are remote today, but that doesn't mean that the podcast still isn't coming to you. And what, Dave, what are we talking about on the podcast this week?
Dude, it's Super Bowl time. We are officially in Super Bowl week. So all the advertising, all the sports networks, everything is going to be about leading into Super Bowl. What is it? What LV.
We were trying to decide that earlier. What the fuck do all these Roman numerals mean?
It's Super Bowl Las Vegas in Tampa.
There you go. There you go.
So yeah, it's Super Bowl week. So we're going to talk about the music of the Super Bowl, aka the halftime shows, and we're going to get into the national anthem a little bit too, which is
And that's the thing. It's not going to just cover halftime shows. We're going to talk about some famous and infamous national anthems. We're going to talk about some music videos that also went along with a certain Super Bowl. So we'll get into it as we get rolling along. But we have another edition of Fuck Cancer this week. And just a few hours ago, Diamond, known to a lot of us Gen Xers as Screech from Saved by the Bell, passed away today at the age of 44.
Yeah, like you said, he got diagnosed real recently, and all.
Yeah, it was like less than 2 weeks ago.
So, fuck cancer. I mean, obviously, he's not like a huge star, right? I mean, he's known to all of us as Gen Xers,
right? Exactly.
Screech, and that show was such a huge part of. I don't know. A lot of people watch it and reminisce.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it because it was perfect for us in our age group because we were going through middle school and high school when this was like big and when it was new.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it may not mean shit to anybody nowadays, even though they've got that reboot going and everything. Fuck that.
Yeah, the reboot's trying to capture those of us that reminisce about those times. Kind of like having a Gen X point of view podcast.
Exactly. But yeah, no, and also because Screech, Dustin Diamond was our age, 44 years old. That's exactly how old I am right now, which is fucking scary to think. 2 weeks ago, he started feeling shitty. Today, he's dead. It's like fucking hell, man. It just goes to show how fragile life can be sometimes.
Yes.
And you never know when your number is going to get called, especially as we're getting older. Oh, well, this is getting off to a great start.
Yeah, fuck cancer.
So
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, this is technically going to be our musical episode of this month because we have decided we're going to do one movie episode and one music episode every month on this podcast. And this is our music episode as we are talking about the musical performances of the Super Bowl. And with that, we have another day in music. So I pulled a few things from this Day in Music website. And on this day, we're recording this February 1st, by the way. The biggest one to me is Rick James, bitch, was born on this day in 1948.
Rick James, bitch.
And I mean, the guy was a huge star in his heyday, right? And who'd have thought he'd have this strange resurgence behind this fucking Chappelle Show skit, this single one-off skit that I'm sure nobody at the time as they were making this could have thought like, oh, this is going to be some worldwide fucking phenomenon. And everybody's going to be fucking talking about it for decades after.
Oh, yeah. For not only talking about it for decades, but like basically defining, not only bringing Rick James back into some sort of relevance, but also Eddie Murphy's brother Who the
Yeah,
hell would
Charlie
have known
Murphy.
who the fuck Charlie Murphy was if it wasn't for that Rick James skit?
Yep,
You know?
exactly.
True
So
Hollywood stories from fucking Charlie Murphy.
yeah.
That's epic.
Yeah, and also on this day in 1994, somebody named Harry Styles was born. I don't know who the fuck that is. I hear that name all the time,
He
but
was oh shit. Kate was into that band when she was a teenager.
yeah.
Um,
I figured it was
One
somebody
Direction.
after our time.
I think it's One Direction.
Oh, yeah.
Jamie, bring that up because
I
I don't. That's
I literally could not care less. But it
you.
was a thing on here. So the only other sorry, I didn't actually have the link up. The only other anniversary or whatever of note that I wanted to bring up was in 1964. The Beatles started a 7-week. No, wait, no, that wasn't it. Fuck, sorry.
67.
67. The Beatles at Abbey Road Studios in London. The Beatles started working on a new song, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It wasn't until
Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
It wasn't until the Beatles had recorded the song that Paul McCartney had the idea to make the song the thematic pivot for their forthcoming album of the same title. So I got to tell you, growing up, never cared for the Beatles because when I heard the Beatles, all I thought were those early days, the Ed Sullivan days, that love me do, like the poppy shit. It wasn't until much later, until I was in my like late 20s, I think, that a friend of mine's like, nah, dude, listen to some other shit. Listen to the White Album. Listen to Sgt. Pepper. And Sgt. Pepper was the album I started with. And I listened to it start to finish. I'm like, that was fucking incredible. And I became a Beatles fan after that.
That was, I'll tell you, that was the White Album is probably one of the best collections of music ever. I mean, honestly, just
That's my brother.
oh, okay.
Good to see you, brother.
With the Bills hat on. Nice.
Yeah, he's a big Bills fan.
Shame didn't make it. Yeah, that White Album, or like the Beatles, the one had the orange cover. It was another compilation album, but those are like really good ways to like hear all the Beatles hits. And Sgt. Pepper's is one of those kind of more of obscure ones that not everybody was into, honestly.
It was very different. It was a pretty stark departure from what they were doing before. So,
yeah.
But I like that. I like that, like kind of psychedelic, almost akin to the Dark Side of the Moon. Just very fucking out there. You get like super stoned and listen to it, and which I never did.
You're a California guy. Did you get into the Beach Boys at all?
Again, not until later in life, because again, it was too poppy, it was too corny for me growing up. Like I was into all of the hard rock, the heavy metal. I had some pop shit that I liked, but it was modern shit. Like I never got into old poppy shit, and I didn't realize like how out there some of their stuff was. And then I listened to Pet Sounds. The same friend told me, "Hey, listen to this Pet Sounds from the Beach Boys." And I listened to it. I'm like, "Oh, that was awesome."
Yeah, Pet Sounds is one of my LPs that's sitting in just in front of me. It's one of those you have to own Beach Boys albums, and I think I would love to have some Beatles albums on LP. I think the difference is though, I like spending my summers down the beach, down the shore. The radio stations, we didn't get like that kind of, a couple weeks ago we're on our music episode, we were talking about how spoiled I am because always grew up in this major metropolitan area, right? So I have access to all these radio stations. Well, down the shore, you didn't have all those stations because they didn't reach. The Philly stations didn't reach down there. So there was a couple of oldie stations, and then there was like some, rap stations or whatever. So we always gravitated, like my little group of friends, we always gravitated toward the oldies. And so the Beatles stuff that would come on there, and Beatles kind of like bridged the gap. There was like some songs you hear on 93.3 every once in a while, and some of them you hear on the oldies channel. But I being down the shore, I enjoyed I can sing the song. I can like Under the Boardwalk, the Drifters.
Oh, okay.
Like that type of music. That was like good, like going down the shore, sitting on the beach, like listening to music like that. That was just kind of the epitome of what summer was like. And that's what those types of songs make me think about.
Okay, cool. So moving on, ready to get into our week?
Oh yeah.
So the first thing that I had for my week is actually something like physical, and I'm not going to reveal it until you're back in the studio because it's actually pretty cool, and I want you to like actually see it and touch it and get your hands on it.
Okay. So you
Um,
didn't have to bring it up at all. You could have
no,
just been, like you could have just waited.
no, but
Yeah.
now I'm going to whet your appetite. Now everybody's going to be like waiting in anticipation, like what is this thing that he could possibly reveal for next week?
Yeah, you put it in the show notes, and I read the show notes. I'm like, oh wow, it's great. You didn't have to say anything about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I'll wait.
Well, I think I did that too when I first created the notes, and I'm like, God, are we going to have enough time to talk about just Super Bowl music? So I figured I had to do some fluff, and of course, we'll go over 2 hours as we always do.
Yeah, duh.
So this Sunday, I have a couple of appointments. The first appointment that I have this Sunday is for my second COVID vaccine shot.
Right.
So, I talked about it a couple weeks ago. The first shot that I got kicked me in the dick and put me out of action for almost a full 24 hours. It fucking sucked. Got my second one coming this Sunday. I told my work, I said, hey, this last one fucking kicked my fucking ass. So be prepared for me to not come in on Monday. So they're like, yeah, that's fine. So when we record next week on Monday, I may be in terrible shape, and I'll talk all about my experience with the second COVID vaccine. So we'll see how that goes. It's the Moderna too, for anybody who was wondering. Moderna, how the hell you pronounce it?
One of my family members had gotten the shot, her first shot, and felt like shit afterwards too. And she never had COVID, which was interesting to me because it's well documented, that we had COVID. So you getting some sort of reaction after the shot was kind of not necessarily surprising. I'm really curious what's going to happen after the second one.
Stories I've heard is that the second one is worse. Like people are having worse reactions to the second one. But most of the people that I took this first vaccine with, nobody else had any real symptoms.
Yeah.
Like very few people had symptoms besides me. So it's like, what the fuck, man? So
well, anyway. And I'm glad we had a precautionary remote podcast after that too, just in case. Because I'm penciled in on a schedule to get it. From the squadron. But they got to go through all the squadron, the other like flyers first, which is fine. And then in the New Jersey list, I'm registered, kind of making sure I'm on both lists so I can get it one way or the other.
Yeah.
But like with the VA and out in the state, like no appointment. Like I don't meet the criteria. Like, okay, that's fine. Which it's ridiculous. And in town here in Runnymede this weekend, they just had our community center. They had opened up, and the VA actually ran the shot, like a COVID shot clinic in town, right, with like county veterans in there. And I still didn't manage to fucking squeeze into that. So apparently, you have to be like, there's certain age brackets, shit like that, and those people should get it for sure. But yeah, I don't know when the hell I'm going to get it.
All right. So later on that day, I have another appointment, a second appointment. This appointment is actually to get waxed. So, since I've been working out and trying to build my physique and everything, I've also been shaving my arms because, it kind of like helps like show some of the definition in your arms, especially me. Like I've always been like super hairy, like think Robin Williams kind of hairy on like his fucking hands and his arms and everything. It's something I've always been very insecure about. So I started shaving my arms like last year. And when I was getting my tattoo done, not this last tattoo session, but the one before, my artist basically said, well, stop being a pussy and just go get waxed. She said, it lasts longer. You don't get as many ingrown hairs, looks better. Another coworker later also told me pretty much the same thing. So I'm like, fuck it. Let me try it. So I'm going to get my arms done, get my chest and stomach done, and my back done this Sunday. So I'll let you know how that goes as well. First time ever getting waxed, and I'm going fucking all in. The look on your face is priceless right now.
I don't want truncated silence to eliminate the awkwardness that is happening right now for wow. I'm
He's speechless.
I'm speechless. That's great.
And for Dave, that's
Where
very special.
Where are you going to have this done?
It's
And can
place.
we bring a video camera?
Kristen already wants to be there. She made sure that I made the appointment for when she was not at work because she wants to be there for this.
Kristen, if you're listening right now, we need video evidence. If there's any screaming or anything like that, I want it. I want the audio, and it will totally be on there.
And I mean, honestly, how can it be any worse than getting a fucking tattoo? Seriously, like this thing fucking hurt.
Kathy just made me look at my phone. I think my wife thinks that you're deliberately heating the studio to a point where you can wear a sleeveless shirt. Off your...
Well, so here's the deal. I'm not doing all this to fucking cover it up. I'm not fucking working out. I'm not getting a tattoo just to wear like a long sleeve fucking shirt. So I don't give a shit that it's February and that we're buried in fucking snow. This is what I'm doing. So get used to it. People.
The other question is, they're going to wax your head as well? Or are you going to stick to shaving then?
No, I'm still going to have to shave the scalp there.
All right. So yeah.
Is that even possible to get your head waxed?
I would hope not. I feel like that would be horrific.
Yeah, that I wouldn't do that. Nah.
Can you imagine it, like if it like would start coming back? Oh man, fuck that. Yeah.
Man, everybody's giving me shit in the chat too, even my brother. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. So the last thing I have for my week is as part of my whole new workout plan and my new meal plan and everything. I've been having to do a lot of cooking on my own. First of all, that air fryer that I bought for Kristen for Christmas, I've used it far more than she has at this point. And I did not anticipate that either when I got that for her. I've been making like chicken and potatoes and everything, and it's fucking great. Air fryers are awesome. And the first round of chicken that I made for a week for my meal prepping, I only use like salt and pepper and just some other little things because I'm on a very like strict like diet. There's very few things that I can use. And, he mentions like no sauces that have any kind of sugar or anything like that, but he didn't say what was approved. So when I went back to my trainer this week, I'm like, all right, dude, the first wave of chicken I made was bland as shit. What can I add to that? He's like, well, you can do hot sauce or something. I'm like, hot sauce? Fuck, why didn't you say that? Yeah, so ever since then, the next batch that I made was with El Yucateco. So I took some El Yucateco green and then poured some El Yucateco red in a container. Then I did salt and pepper, fucking like marinated the chicken in that shit.
Did you sing to it, Jason?
I did. And it was great. So fucking good. So if you're looking to make some chicken, you need a new recipe, mix some El Yucateco green sauce, some El Yucateco red, put it all over your chicken, little salt and pepper, put it in the air fryer for 15 minutes. Good to go.
These are your cooking tips of the week with Jason.
Yes, indeed. So that has been my week. What about you, Dave?
How can I possibly follow the waxing? I just can't. There's nothing I could do to match that. No. So this week has been. So last week I talked about I was going to do the Kathy. Last week I was going to do. I started doing this like couch to 5K thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So. We had my first day was on Monday when we did the show, and I was like, I didn't feel like, just sore. I wasn't nothing out of the ordinary, nothing really to be worried about. So had Tuesday off, and then went out on Wednesday. Wednesday, even like when I woke up, I wasn't feeling great, and it's usually like because that's what happens when especially starting out working out when you haven't after a while. It's usually the day. It's not the day after. It's
it's like the second day, like especially when it's your legs.
Yeah. So I kind of knew that, and I actually got on the exercise bike, and I did a little bit of that to just kind of get my muscles warmed up and everything else. I'm like, I want to get ahead of this a little bit. So I got out on the track, and Jason, it was like I got shot. It was like I was shot directly in the fucking knees with 7.62 ammo, just fucking AK-47 shooting right into my fucking knees. And I'm like trying to like locomote, trying to keep my legs moving for the little run portions, and it's just like I'm in so much pain that I ended up just struggling to finish the 1.5 miles, let alone just run any more of it.
Mm.
And that was Wednesday. I'm sitting here on Monday and I'm in the same amount of pain. Like my knees are like they blew up to like picture like an orange. Like you know how an orange kind of is like soft when you touch it, like an overripe orange. That's what my knees look like and feel like.
Yeah.
It's been icing, like sitting in my recliner with ice on my knees, for a couple hours a day, which I haven't done today, which is why I think I'm so uncomfortable now. Taking lots of vitamin M with some Tylenol on top of it, and it's just a fucking shit show. So, along with fuck cancer, we could fuck running too, because it's just honestly, I there was a piece of me that thought that it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Like
Mhm.
yeah. Why did I stop running in the Air Force? Well, because your knees suck. Like yeah, but that was years ago. Like it can't possibly. It can't possibly. No. It's a fucking shit show. So I'm letting this heal, and then I'm going to do more. I'll walk instead of run. You're supposed to walk before you run, right? So
Right.
I'm going to continue to get it to stretch it out, but yeah.
Yeah, ease into it this time. Use a little lubrication. Be gentle.
Yeah,
you don't have to just shove it all in right from the get go.
Try to spread a little bit, get your thumb in there. And the only reason it's even relevant for us as Gen Xers, like we're in our mid 40s, most of us Gen Xers, right? And like if with COVID and everything else, a lot of us have put on some weight and want to think like, oh, you know what, I'm going to start exercise. I'm going to get and do stuff. Like you have to fucking stretch. You have to stretch. You have to like be diligent with these things, and you have to not try and make state, as John and Kathy put it.
Mm.
You have to go into it slow. Otherwise, there's all those aches and pains and shit like that are gonna fucking slam you, and that's where I'm at. So the more fucking
Mhm.
don't go running in post COVID in the spring and be like, oh, I'm gonna go out running and then you're gonna be like, oh, I'm going to go to the hospital. Anyway, you know what else? Fuck teleworking on snow days,
Mm.
right? This is I think we talked about it before, but snow days are dead now. Like there is, I think Nick, Big Swede had posted something earlier talking, or it was in our work chat,
Mm.
and he's like, his kid's school, like there's no remote today. It was just a straight snow day, which I think is the exception because I think a lot of places went full
Yeah,
remote.
yeah. My kids are full remote, but they still had school today because
Mhm.
that's that double-edged sword, right? You're full remote, but now you don't have to take the day off for snow because you're remote anyway. So that's kind of the same thing with teleworking now. It's that double-edged sword. Yes, you get this nice benefit if your company decides to continue doing teleworking after COVID and everything, but there's a flip side to that coin.
Exactly. And what I posted in the work chat was that it's a shame that we're so good at this. We've mastered this with the Zoom and the using work chats and VPNs and everything else. We're so good at doing this remotely that there's no such thing as a snow day anymore.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks. Rest in peace, snow days. Yeah, and I fuck the snow in general. Like I just excuse me. I think part of or you say the word snow in the Northeast, and we should be used to it, right? We're in this area that we live. You expect to get snow, yet every time when it shows up, people lose their fucking minds. Like it's the first time every time. Like
Mhm.
people that have lived their entire lives in New Jersey to go fucking just stupid when it starts snowing, and they don't know how to act. And it's
Yeah.
like, all right, people, I understand that I live in an area where there could be snow, and I don't like it. I don't. It's fucking. It is snow is my Anakin sand.
I don't like snow. It's
Yeah,
cold. It's
cold. It
hard.
gets everywhere. Um. So yeah, but people around like, all right, listen, it's going to snow. Like, don't go crazy in the fucking grocery stores. Like, don't go out and go driving, get yourselves in accidents and shit. Don't take your four-wheel drive vehicle, think like, oh, I have four-wheel drive and I can go anywhere. Boo, 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 boo. The next thing you know,
Go right to the
flying off into a fucking ditch or hitting a tree because you're doing 60 miles an hour, thinking that you're invincible. Or you're not, dumbass. So anyway, this has been the more you know edition of Dave's Week. They're talking about it in the chat. I want to talk about it real quick.
Sure.
This Diamond Dallas Page yoga.
Yeah, I've done it before.
Did you go to the chiropractor on base?
No.
So the chiropractor that was like there next to flight medicine, if you got referred to that, he's like, I think he's the guy that's still there now. He was like the latest one. The guy before him was fucking amazing, brilliant. Because chiropractors can be you can either be really good or really bad. So the guy that's in there now, like you'd go in and you do the whole workup and do all this stuff, and then at the end of your session, you would get a 15-minute sales pitch for the Diamond Dallas Page fucking yoga.
Really?
He espoused the virtues of this fucking yoga. Like if you started talking about it, he wouldn't stop. Right? It was just so that I immediately equate that to like, okay, stop trying to sell me this thing. Like, are you getting some sort of commission? Like literally, ask if Nick's not in the chat. I don't think, but because
I don't know.
Out.
I feel that about like anybody in the medical field in general. Like we've got doctors constantly trying to sell us on new medications for our kids. Just recently we had this happen, and I'm like, how much of a kickback are you getting for this?
Yeah,
it's the whole thing is fucked.
Yeah, but the whole DDP yoga thing, like Jason and I, we went and did yoga, that hot yoga class, which we started way too, like that was we started at an advanced level. We really should have been starting like beginner like yoga,
pouring sweat by the end.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ,
dude! Speaking of him, he's been in fucking Colombia like for the past, I don't know, month.
Yeah, so I actually texted him last week.
Yeah.
And he and I are talking about getting together within the next week after he gets back and finishes quarantine and I get my second COVID shot. So yeah, we're actually talking about getting together at some point in the next couple of weeks.
Curious to see how.
He's been on a very spiritual journey. It's been unique to watch. So I'm really curious to talk to him again.
Yeah, and he's been very public with it. I think he's the bearded Daka. On Instagram.
I'll try to get the link and I'll throw it.
If you're following at PhillyDave75 on Instagram, like he's on my list. He's probably on Darth Roxcombs as well. But anyway, yes, very very spiritual journey. Lots of Instagram videos of people playing drums and shit. So hey, and there's got to be something to it. Like you go into it that deep, then there has to be something to it. But I feel like that's the case with a lot of what he does. He's like, okay, if he's going to go in, he's going to go in fucking full throttle, and until he's bored with that, and then he's going to go find something else.
Right. Okay, I've got it. It's the bearded. So the bearded, all one word, and then Bhakta, Bhakta. So THE, THEBEARD. EDBHAKTA on Instagram. The Bearded Bhakta. That's our good friend Bob Healy. Was a guest on All Things Star Wars a couple of times.
It was.
Back when we did that podcast. So anyway, anything else on your week before we move on?
Nope.
All right. So that being said, do you need a break or anything before we move into our main topic?
I'm good.
All right, I think I'm good as well. So let's roll right into it. We are talking about musical performances of the Super Bowl. And the way I worded it in the show description, it's what did I word it in the YouTube?
I don't know. I'm looking at 3 different sets of notes and they're all different. So
yeah, the best and worst musical performances of the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And yeah, we've got some very iconic performances and some very infamous performances. So we're going to talk about some of them in the beginning. Then we're going to get into our top 5 lists. And then we're going to close by talking about the number 1 musical performance in like the history of Super Bowls and beyond. So if you have any sort of knowledge, you know what we're talking about. But we're going to go ahead and get right into it. First of all, I wanted to talk about the Super Bowl experience in general.
Okay.
A lot of things have changed over our lifetimes. The way we consume media, the way we, see movies, so much has changed. But it's, to me at least, and in my experiences, the Super Bowl experience has stayed pretty much the same over the years. It's, you get together with either a bunch of family, friends, or some mix thereof. You choose somebody's fucking house to get together at. You have a bunch of food. You have a bunch of alcohol. And you just have a good fucking time. And it's been that way for as long as I've been watching Super Bowls.
So I guess the question is, like, when did that start for you, though?
Well, I can tell you exactly when it started, but that also kind of ties into to our final musical performance topic.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so we'll save that. We'll put a pin in that because I'm going to go back there for my very first experience. But I'll just say it started right at the beginning of high school time frame for me.
Okay, so that makes sense. It's funny, we're doing the research for the show, right? And I'm, obviously you go right to the internet, like the beauty of what we have with the internet, right? And I can pull down a list of all the Super Bowl shows. And what I realized is, for the Super Bowl, for me, it was more about, like, when I was my church youth group, and I think I mentioned this before. Our church youth group would have a Super Bowl party, and that was probably the first time that we had people. And I was in a social gathering for the Super Bowl. Like, I come from a sports family background, but I don't have these memories of sitting down with the family and watching the Super Bowl. It just wasn't a thing until much later in life, with my own kids and stuff like that. But when I was younger, talking like, late 80s into the 90s, it was with the church youth group, and that's when it was either at the church or it was at a friend's house, or one of the houses, and it was food, and it was a whole thing. As we're talking about the music performances, though, as I'm looking back, I realized that I missed almost every single one of these live. And the reason for that was because we would, during the halftime, we would go out and actually play football.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It would be either in the church parking lot or it would be in somebody's yard, and we go and fuck around and play football, during the musical performance, because we really didn't give a shit.
Right.
It was more about having fun with each other, not sitting. We enjoyed the commercials and shit like that, but the reality was we didn't have any skin in the fight. Most of the time it was the fucking 49ers or the Bills in these Super Bowls, and we didn't give a shit about either team. So,
right.
It was more about having the party and being together. So, looking back on it, really had almost no recollection of a lot of these, except for a handful. Like, when we get down to our top 5, like, most of mine are going to be in that range of, like, where I remember where I was
right
doing that. So
yeah, and just kind of backpedaling too, for me, I remember Super Bowl 20, the one in 1985, the Bears and the Patriots. We're going to get into the musical aspect of that here in a minute, but I remember that Super Bowl. I remember, my parents having a big party. I didn't give a shit about the game at that point. I wasn't really into football. It wasn't until about Super Bowl 23 was when I actually started paying attention to the game, but it wasn't until later where I started watching the games start to finish. But anyway, I remember these always being big events as kids. And then, as soon as I watched that first Super Bowl start to finish, and then I was like all in on football, it's been every year, it's been an event with a couple of exceptions. I'll talk about one of those here when we get into our lists.
Okay.
And we have a very special guest that just stopped into the studio. After having braved the snow coming home from work, she is here now. So hello.
Good.
The car is stuck in the snow. It's half in the driveway.
The car is stuck in the snow halfway up the driveway.
Oh, well, at least it's halfway up the driveway and not in the middle of the road.
That is true. It's not in the middle of the road, right?
If there was no snow, it might be more in the road, but I think it's okay. It just looks really, really stupid.
Can you just move it to the front of the house?
There's snow. I don't know. We shouldn't because the snow plows.
How about the driveway behind my car?
That's what I got stuck in.
You got stuck in that driveway?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay.
Make it on mine.
All right, we'll figure it out after the show. this was the life and times of Snow in the Roscom household.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't remember what I was talking about.
You were talking about the party's Super Bowl experience.
Yeah, it's always been a big experience for me. I mean, you've been to our house for the last 2 or 3 years now for the Super
It's the
Bowl.
last 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so we've always had a big thing. Now this year is going to be a little bit different because of COVID and everything else. But normally it's always a big event somewhere at our house. So anyway, that's all I had to say about that. Sorry, all kinds of shit just like fucking threw me off between Kristen coming in and now you're distracted. It's like, stop it. So before we get into our top 5 lists, let's talk about some infamous Super Bowl performances, because there is a handful. Because when you are on this big of a stage, when you're part of this huge spectacle live, things sometimes tend to go wrong, not as intended. And we're just going to talk about a few of these instances. One of the ones, which I was watching this one live, was in 2011 at Super Bowl 45. This was the Packers and the Steelers. The Packers ended up winning that one. And it was Christina Aguilera's national anthem performance.
Oh.
And the thing that I remember about this, and well, that everybody remembers, is the fact that she botched the lyrics halfway through. And it was like, oh God, did she really just do that? And she tried to make up for it by doing like her like huge vocal range and just like trying to really draw out a bunch of the fucking notes at the end, try to do things that people have done far better.
Yeah.
So you combine that with her like botching one of the verses in the lyrics. It was a disaster. And I talk shit, but I also feel bad. Like, I couldn't imagine getting in front of a stadium filled with 50,000 people or however the fuck much the stadiums hold, and then hundreds of millions of people watching on TV around the world. Like, that's a little pressure.
You're talking about like it's like 80,000 people live in the stadium. It's like, it's not. I think we take for granted that these musicians and these artists, like, they're used to performing in front of a stage, right? That is such a huge stage, like a huge stadium show, and it's in the middle of the stadium too. So it's not like you're going to a concert in the stadium and they have like half the stadium blocked off, so there's like all the visible seats and all that other shit. No, you're talking about you're playing to the full audience, 70 to 80,000 people. Oh, and then by the way, you're also, like you said, to the hundreds of millions at home. There's got to be some nerves with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we take that for granted. We expect them to just go on there and boom and hit it.
Yeah, dance monkey.
Yeah, and hey, they're human beings. That's what makes it that much more interesting to watch. Honestly.
True. And I mean, thankfully, it didn't like completely destroy her career or anything. But I'm sure the embarrassment
in a national anthem somewhere.
Yeah, well, that is true. But yeah, I'm sure she felt pretty shitty about that for a while.
Yeah.
So the next one, this quite possibly might be the most infamous Super Bowl halftime performance ever because of what happened. And this is the infamous wardrobe malfunction. Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake, Super Bowl 38 in 2004. That was the New England Carolina Super Bowl. That was the Patriots' second of their however many Super Bowls they have now. But yeah, so Justin Timberlake, Janet Jackson doing this, live performance, big show. The finale, for some reason, is supposed to be Justin grabbing a part of her shirt, her top, and ripping a piece of it off. And I guess she was supposed to like have a bra on under that. Like, I don't know what the intent was, but apparently it just ripped everything off. And boom, there's her tit right there. National TV.
What would be forever known as the wardrobe malfunction.
Right. Which, for every time you've heard that phrase since then, this is where it started.
Yep.
That was not a thing before Super Bowl 2004. Now, anytime you hear anybody say wardrobe malfunction, be it in jest or like seriously, That's all because of this Justin Timberlake Janet Jackson performance.
Yep. And did you say you saw it live or no?
I did. And this was right at the beginning of us having our first TiVo, if you remember TiVos. So if for those of you who remember TiVos before, like, just the cable companies DVRs took over, they had that little rewind thing and it had that little click, like, and that happened. I'm like, did I just see that? Hold on, click, 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 pause. There it is. There's Janet Jackson right there on national TV with some weird fucking ring around it too. It was very strange.
It was, yeah. I didn't see it live, right? So it was I was out of the room when it happened, and it came back in the room. People were talking about it, and we didn't have the benefit of TiVo. But what's really funny is that timing, right? So you talk about, you have this early DVR technology with the TiVo, right? Mm-hmm. So if that doesn't happen, if this is just a regular national broadcast and that you were just getting it how you were going to get it, people probably not even. There would have been a lot of people that would have missed it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And there would have been no way to go back, and they're certainly not going to like replay it for people. Maybe it makes some. It'll make a little bit of noise, and somebody will get in trouble. In the booth or something like that. But yeah, because of TiVo, because of the internet, it was everywhere. It was everywhere. You couldn't miss it, and this is one of those times where this is part of the vernacular now. Is that wardrobe malfunction is now part of our national vernacular because of an incident like this. And and quite frankly, was it that big of a deal? I mean, honestly, like it could have just went by, but instead there was all this activism about it afterward, right? Like it was somehow done deliberately, and call it press stuff, call it just saying Justin Timberlake like did it on purpose. To like all this scandal about it, and the reality is it was just shit happens. We're going to talk. I'm sure I can't imagine we're going to talk about Super Bowl performance and not talk about the Prince show, right? But
sure.
Think in the pouring fucking rain in that show, if somebody's
hold on, we'll get there. Don't blow your load.
I'm just saying, like that was at a time when you didn't necessarily have all this fucking activism. Every single time there's a huge performance like this, the potential for something like that to happen is there. Mm-hmm. People just
live TV,
live TV, that's
the kind of shit that can go down. The next one was actually, it's just very funny to me. I don't even remember. I did not see this live. I remember everything that happened afterwards, though. And this was Katy Perry, Super Bowl 49, 2015, another New England Patriot win. This was the Patriots and the Seahawks. This was we've got the ball on the 1 yard line. Let's not hand it off to the best running back in the league. And we'll just throw it, and that'll work out. Good job.
I mean, you should be really happy. You should be really happy that happened.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. The look on fucking what's his nuts face, their defender, the guy that actually ended up going to the 49ers.
Butler?
No. The one fucking cocksucker, the fucking guy. Oh my god. Jamie, pull it up. The defender played for Seattle, has played for the 49ers for the last 2 seasons.
Oh, you're talking about
is a fucking piece of shit. Richard Sherman, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah. Anyway. So what was I talking about?
You guys got that from what Jason was saying. I didn't know fucking clue.
So anyway, the Katy Perry performance. This is well known mostly because of the dancing sharks behind her, particularly the left shark. These guys in these big, bulky shark costumes were dancers as part of her musical number. And the one on the left, I guess the prevailing theory is that the guy just either couldn't keep up with the dance moves because of the suit, or he was just going rogue and doing his own fucking thing. But you go back and you watch the video of the left shark dancing, and it's fucking hilarious. Unintentionally, I'm sure. Well, I mean, the shark costumes themselves were pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Well, and like in that particular video, there's like she's going up and there's like beach balls with faces on them, and like she touches the face of the beach ball, and it like it opens its mouth or something like that. We're gonna get to some more Katy Perry stuff later.
Oh, okay.
I promise you. But yeah, left shark was again one of those controversial things.
Well, and it wasn't controversy. It was just the internet blew up. This is when
Yeah.
things start going viral on the internet, and it was all kinds of pictures and early memes of this fucking left shark, and it was just it was really funny.
Yeah, you can find a lot of left shark memes still floating around up there, like especially if it's an older meme, but it checks out. Yeah, you'll find some left shark in there. As with any of these, like controversy or internet, whatever, the idea, like the Super Bowl is one of those things where everybody is. There's so many non-football people watching it for whatever reason. You don't get that type of viewership without having some strap hangers that are just sitting there to watch it for the commercials or whatever. Because obviously the commercials are a big thing. I mean, you could do a whole episode just based on that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You think of the, all these people that are just sitting there watching everything except the football and sitting there staring at it like, oh, I saw a nipple. Oh my God, this is a travesty. I'm writing the FCC right now to say how offended I am, and my children are scarred.
Right.
It's like, holy shit, calm the fuck down. And now, because you can rewind, you can go on YouTube and see pretty much everything you ever wanted to see ever. It's I feel like the Super Bowl is one of those. It's so big that anything that happens during the Super Bowl is going to. It's not just the people that are watching the game on any given Sunday. It's everybody seeing it at the same time.
Yep. So moving on, I'm curious how much, if at all, you remember this. The 1985 Super Bowl, Super Bowl 20, Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots. Someone had the brilliant idea for both teams to make songs and music videos leading up to the Super Bowl. Now, I know the Super Bowl Shuffle is the more famous of the two, but I, growing up, really remember the New England song. Because I remember they were playing it on MTV, like in general rotation. Like, I literally had not heard that song in 30 fucking years before I went to YouTube today. And I'm like, let me see if I could find it on YouTube. Oh, boom, there it was right there. And I remembered the whole fucking thing.
I don't have any recollection of the Patriots version of it.
Yeah.
I know the Super Bowl Shuffle. I can picture, Jim McMahon and fucking, Refrigerator Perry and all this guy. I mean, I can remember that vividly, but the Patriots part of that, I forgot the Patriots even playing that fucking game.
Yeah, well, they got their asses fucking beat that game.
That was it the Super Bowl where the Refrigerator got the touchdown?
Yep. Yeah, they were lining him up as like a halfback and just handing it off to him. This fucking 350-pound mammoth of a man.
What's really funny, kind of a sidebar, I guess, but the size of Refrigerator Perry, if you look at how big he was compared to how big linemen are now, he wouldn't be that big. Like, he was such an exception to the rule as far as the size of a player, and now almost all those linemen are that size. They're fucking giant human beings.
Yeah. But yeah, they made these music videos, and oh man, even the Super Bowl Shuffle, the one that everybody knows, it's so fucking ridiculous when you go back and watch it now, and you're just thinking, what the fuck were they thinking? Like Jim McMahon with the sunglasses on, and I'm just like, oh, this is something else. This is 1985 for you.
Yeah, it was 1985, and the sunglasses for him. And Jim McMahon, he ended up being an Eagle for a little bit.
Oh, right? That's right. I forgot about
he played for the Eagles for a minute,
yeah.
which was always a fun callback when they were talking about, oh, Jim McMahon earned a Super Bowl, blah, 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 like 10 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We got him when he was an old man. Kind of. Oh, Big Swede is in the house with no internet at the house.
Oh.
In fact, as I was texting him earlier, we were talking about the snowstorm. I was texting him earlier, and the power went out. And he was like, "Oh fuck!" And then the power came back on, but the internet's still out, so it was fuck downgraded to a shit. So apparently, it's still out.
Still sucks. Condolences, bro. I had one other thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into our lists. And this is something else that I'm curious if you remember, because I have very vivid memories of this. And that was the In Living Color counter programming to the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yes. What year was that? That was
it started in 91, I want to say. 91 or 92.
I think it was 92.
Well, it was Super Bowls 26 and 27. I know this. Jamie, pull that up. What years were Super Bowls 26 and 27? But yeah, in living color, for people who are about in our age bracket, was fucking huge. You had this fledgling Fox network that was trying to like have a whole different perspective on television, and Living Colors was one of their flagship shows, and I fucking loved it. Everybody at my school fucking loved In Living Color. It was huge. We could spend a whole episode just talking about In Living Color.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But they did, started at Super Bowl 26, counter programming for the halftime show. So when it was airing on CBS or whatever, over on Fox, specifically during the halftime portion, they had an episode of In Living Color that was all football focused. They had Men on Football. I remember that. The Men on Film. Yes. So they did Men on Football. They did all kinds of other stuff. Oh, they did the Homeboy Shopping Network live from the Redskins locker room. If you remember, they had Mark Rippon all fucking tied up in the fucking locker too.
Yeah.
So
I distinctly remember this because, we were talking about how we kind of watched the Super Bowls. Like one of those was changing the channel to this specifically. Like, oh, well, this is nobody gave a shit about. I forget. I couldn't even tell you who the halftime performers were. And I researched for the show.
Well, and that was the thing. That the first year, the one in 92 that they did, got Fox such huge ratings for that halftime period. It was the next year, Super Bowl 27, that they actually started booking like big name talent, because before that, it was either the Disney show or the Luther Vandross performance, or it was not the big music star extravaganza that it is now. This was the start of that evolution to them booking bigger acts, because they booked Michael fucking Jackson the next year after In Living Color fucking beat them, or at least competed with them in the ratings during halftime, because there was a tangible amount of people that switched over from the Super Bowl to Fox for that particular episode.
Well, that's the cause and effect, right? So if that doesn't happen, right, we could still be watching marching bands and fucking Super Bowl. Which I put a note in my notes. I was like, shout out to the fucking marching bands. Like early on in Super Bowls, like they had marching bands come down. They were doing big performances, but you're talking, the UCLA fucking marching band would go out and perform and shit like that. And I'm a college football guy. You pretend to be, but then in reality, you're not. Like there's nothing better than being like kind of with the drum line and just the marching band doing their thing. Like it's really, really cool. I can't imagine sitting in a Super Bowl though, and that's the halftime. That's the halftime for a fucking game at Penn State, not necessarily a halftime for the biggest sporting event on the planet.
Yep. So, but, obviously they evolved, and that leads us right into our top 5 list as we talk about national anthem and halftime show performances. There is an obvious number 1 that we're going to save for the end. So we're going to do our top 5 that is not this number 1 performance. And then we'll talk about the final one. So when we, as we get to our number 1s and you're like, wait a minute, you didn't talk about this. It's coming. Don't worry. So that being said, are you ready to get into our top 5?
I am. Let's do it.
All right. Do you want to start, or do you want me to?
You always start. Aren't you supposed to start?
All right. Well, I'll start, and I will start with that very next year after In Living Color, the Michael Jackson performance, Super Bowl 27. This was in 93. This was the first Cowboys-Bills Super Bowl.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was their reaction to In Living Color, and they went all out right from the get-go. This was a massive stage that they had set up for Michael. He did the whole this was that iconic moment that you see him exploding from underneath the stage, like it launches him up, and then he fucking lands, and then he's just standing there.
Yeah, because they put like on the big screens, right? The big jumbotrons. They had pictures of him, and he like explodes out of the jumbotron and was standing on top of the jumbotron, or so you thought, because then from there they went to another one, whoosh, and they do the same thing. Now there's two of them, and then it comes down to the stage. The whole fucking thing was just such a huge production. I mean, Michael Jackson was the biggest performer of the day.
Yeah,
right?
in the 80s and 90s, he ruled the world. And
so,
say what you will about the controversies and everything else, like he was quite the showman.
He was the pop star, and I think that set the stage for some huge shows going forward. Like I said, the cause and effect that's there for if MJ doesn't come out and do the Super Bowl, like what are you going to do after that? I mean, you're always trying to reach that level, and sometimes you fail miserably. But
yeah, now the reason this isn't higher for me is because he lip synced all of the songs during this performance. I hate, people who lip sync during concert, during live shows. Look, we all know it's not going to sound as good as the fucking album version. Just do your best. But I would rather hear you try to sing it live than to just see you obviously lip syncing to whatever the fucking song is.
Yeah, I agree. Lip syncing, it takes away from it. I'd rather you. Yeah, this particular performance. I've always said that like it's. I think a lot of people say it, but seeing a band live is supposed to be a different experience, regardless of the stage. Like you're going to a live show. I'm not trying to hear what you put out on the album. I've already heard that. I want to hear your performance in this particular setting. So yeah, I agree. Lip syncing, it does. It's sometimes it's impossible to not do, but yeah, I would rather.
Yep. So let's go on to your number 5. What you got?
My number 5 is the same. I got MJ 1993 MJ. That whole not only because it set the stage for Super Bowls to come. I have this vague recollection of actually seeing the beginning of it. I don't know if I sat all the way through it, but saw that beginning bit, like where you saw like using the entire stadium. The entire stadium was his stage, for that particular show, and it was huge. It was a big Michael Jackson performance, and I'm not a huge Michael Jackson guy. I mean, but I can appreciate what he's done for the music industry, for pop music and everything else. So you can't not. You have to respect what he did for music. And yeah, it was easy number 5 for me.
All right. What about your number 4?
So my number 4 is 2015 with the Katy Perry performance. So here's the thing. I have a soft spot for Katy Perry.
Well, I have a hard spot for Katy Perry, but
you and a lot of other people. You and Left Shark.
Yes, indeed.
There was the performance as a whole. So a lot of my list is not necessarily about the entire performance, but about a particular moment of that performance that kind of sticks out with me. And see what I did there? It sticks out.
No pun intended.
But yeah, that Katy Perry fireworks song is one of those things that'll sneak into my shuffle because I would play it a lot. I really like the song. I like the energy of the song, and I thought,
didn't she just perform that at the inauguration too, a couple weeks ago? I think that was
it wasn't the inauguration. I think it was the post thing that they did at the Lincoln Memorial, whatever. I don't know.
Either way, like she was just recently singing it for some big.
Yeah,
thing.
I'm talking about like Katy Perry when she was had her best, not this fucking crazy person that's there now.
Right.
But yeah, the performance, like she's standing on this, she's singing, and they had this like shooting star thing that kind of rose up out of the stage, and then she like flew on this like shooting star and did the performance. So.
Oh, exclusive for the YouTube audience.
Oh, it was fantastic. You're using your man muscles there. But yeah, so that particular the entire performance, like it was big. Like she came out on this giant fucking there was like this giant gold like lion or something like that. It was just this big set piece that kind of rolling out, and it was a big show, and that rendition of Firework like stuck out to me as needing to make my list. And why is that bigger than MJ? Because recency, honestly. It comes down to recency.
I could see it. So my number 4, this is actually the only national anthem that I have on my list. It's not the last national anthem we're going to talk about today. Don't worry. 2000, Faith Hill doing the national anthem at Super Bowl 34 with the Rams and the Titans.
Right.
Funny story about this one. I did not actually see this live.
Okay.
This happened at a really shitty time in my life. So I know I've talked about in the past my best friend growing up, Rob, how he died. He died about 2 weeks before this Super Bowl. So I was in a very shitty place, drinking a lot, very, very depressed. It was not a good time for one Jason Roscom. So we had a Super Bowl get together, but I think it was as soon as I got to the place, I went right to like the Jack Daniels bottle and the whole Super Bowl. Like I missed the 1 yard short with the Rams or with the Titans guy, you know.
Right.
So I missed that whole fucking thing because my life was a disaster. But doing research, and I've even heard people talk about how great this was, almost the best. So I went back, I've listened to it a couple of times, and yeah, Faith Hill's national anthem performance at the Super Bowl 34 was actually pretty fucking good. They had this really good drum and bagpipe arrangement to kind of lead into the beginning of the song, and then it finished with this big orchestral boom.
Right.
Excellent performance.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's others deserving mention for me, but I can appreciate that.
Yep. My number 3 was Super Bowl 40 in 2006. This was the Steelers Seahawks pre Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson Seahawks. So needless to say, the Steelers won that one, but this was the Rolling Stones. And there was really nothing special about this performance except for the fact that it was the fucking Stones. Now, I talk about like showmanship and things like that. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see in a live performance. And I don't know if anybody does it better than the Rolling Stones. Even at their advanced age, they still fucking bring it. Mick Jagger owns the stage. Great performance. And it's just them. They just performed like 3 of their fucking big hits, like Satisfaction, Start Me Up. It was, again, nothing special, nothing even related to the Super Bowl. It could have just been any fucking Rolling Stones concert, except they had the big fucking lips. The stage was their big lip icon. So that was pretty cool. But I mean, besides that, it was nothing special beyond just a fucking Stones concert.
Well, and that's the thing. That didn't make my list because of that specifically. Like, okay, great, it's the Rolling Stones playing. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I can see a video of them playing somewhere else. You know, I don't think it played to. It was like if you took somebody, like you took these people that probably didn't know fuck all about football at all. They're like, okay, here, you're going to play in this stage. Okay, cool. How much time? What songs? All right, cool. Show up, play, leave, peace, and then fucking roll out. I mean, to me, it didn't stand out, but you're right. It's a big name. You know, it's the kind of name where and now you need to get these names for the Super Bowl to fucking make it relevant.
Yep. So that was my number 3. How about your number 3?
My number 3 in 2014, it was the Bruno Mars Super Bowl. So I don't like we're kind of like we fancy ourselves music people, right? Like you more so than me, to be honest, because I don't have a knack for remembering names and titles and stuff like that. I just I know the music itself, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
Sure.
But I say that because Bruno Mars is one of those performers that has always kind of been in the background. Like he wrote songs for like some of the big names out there. And in 2014 is when he kind of like stepped onto the stage on his own. And this show, like I like his music. I like somebody who can the dude's a musician.
Yes.
Right.
But you don't see that very often with like these current pop stars.
No,
they don't play instruments; they just sing and look good.
This dude he opens his Super Bowl set with him on the fucking drums, right? And he's doing basically like a drum solo as it pulls back in, and he starts doing the rest of the show. And it had all the choreography, all the other big stuff. But I enjoy his music, even though it's more a pop element. But I can appreciate the fact that this is a musician who's really, really good at his craft. And at the time, he was the biggest artist there. I mean, it was kind of the definition of we need the biggest artist at the time to be here in the Super Bowl, and then he was the guy.
Yeah,
and it was a big show. That's my
yeah,
number
that's
three.
great. No, and I completely agree. And that was the one where the Red Hot Chili Peppers showed up at the end too, in a kind of a special guest spot. So yeah, that's a good one. All right, and your number two.
My number two is the 2017 Lady Gaga performance. So
Oh.
if you remember this, she starts out with "God Bless America," right? She's standing on the top of the fucking stadium, and she's saying "God Bless America." This is the drone one. Remember all the drones they had flying in the
Yeah,
background?
they made like a flag and
dude, that was one of the coolest fucking things I had ever seen in my life. I spent the entire rest of probably the week trying to figure out how the fuck they did that. Because the drone technology, like as we know it, like as I own one right now, like it was unfathomable to me to think that you were going to have hundreds of these things flying in synchronized, whatever.
yeah, not bumping into each other, and
I'm gonna do is like staying in this steady state, and it looks so fake. But then to find out that this is the real thing, and I mean, Lady Gaga is again, it's another one as a performer. She's got a big voice. She's not, obviously some of the character that she is not always the best, but honestly, from a performance standpoint, it was a great performance, and I just was blown away by the drone thing. I really was, and her rendition of "God Bless America" is one of the best I've ever heard.
yeah.
So that was my number two.
She's a good performer, has a great voice. I can totally see it. So my number two, this might actually come as a surprise to a lot of people, and I might get some blowback for this, and for my number one for that matter. But my number two is Prince from 2007, the Colts Bears Super Bowl 41.
Yes,
You had alluded to it earlier, the song "In the Rain," and Prince is again. You're catching a theme with me too. These people that are like big showmen, like they own the fucking stage. When they get on and they do a live performance, you're fucking mesmerized. And Prince is no different. I fucking have always loved Prince. For as long as I can remember, I've always been a huge Prince fan because I grew up in the early days of MTV, seeing all these early Prince videos, loved his weird shit in the 90s, followed him for quite a while, and was pretty upset when he died. So the Prince Super Bowl was going to be a no-brainer, but not my number one. Honestly.
I'm surprised it wasn't your number one. If I was going to put money on Anthony, I would have said the Prince one was number one. And in fairness, it is my others deserving mention because just like you said, like he went out there, and if you go on YouTube right now, there's a like little NFL documentary. It's like 6 minutes long, but it talks about the Prince performance in that show and how everyone was so fucking panicked because the dude's on there with like 4 different electric guitars. The fucking stage is slicker than whale shit. You got dancers in fucking 8-inch heels. He's in there fucking like, and it's raining harder like than it's a Miami fucking just absolute torrential fucking rain. And he went out there and he fucking killed it.
He did. And closed it with fucking Purple Rain
in the rain.
As the rain was coming down.
Yeah. And again, I'm not a Prince guy, but I can appreciate what he's done for music. And that was an epic performance.
Funny sidebar. A few years ago, Justin Timberlake did a halftime performance where he did a Prince song at a halftime of Super Bowl, and they had like a projection of Prince. This was after he died. A projection of him on this back row. You can see Justin playing the piano in the foreground, and then this big projection of Prince in the background. Somebody the next day took that picture and put Dave Chappelle as Prince doing the thing on there instead of the actual Prince. It was the funniest fucking thing I'd ever seen in my life. To kind of go back to the whole Prince or Chappelle show, True Hollywood Stories with Charlie Murphy.
Charlie Murphy!
Good shit. All right, my number one. This is probably going to come as a surprise.
Okay.
But this halftime performance has always stuck out to me. And it's probably going to seem kind of weird coming from me. But this was 2001, Super Bowl 35, the Ravens and Giants. Sorry, Lunar Girl. And it was a combined Aerosmith and NSYNC halftime show. And so the intent was they were both going to perform, which they did. It started off with NSYNC. Now, I fucking hated the big boy band craze of the late 90s and early 2000s. Fucking hated it. But the NSYNC album, that No Strings Attached, with the 2 songs, It's Gonna Be Me and whatever the other big song was from that album. I actually
Bye.
Yeah, bye. That's it. Thank you. Yes. But yeah, It's Gonna Be Me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was in a weird place in my life and I actually really like that song. So that was their big hit when they played this. And so it was them singing it, and then at the end, fucking Steven Tyler comes in and is like, "It's gonna be me," and then Aerosmith starts breaking into a couple of their songs. They do "Jaded," which was their big hit at that time, like singing it again with NSYNC and him and Justin Timberlake going, "And I'm the one that jaded you." And then all of a sudden, Britney Spears comes out.
Shows up, yeah.
Britney shows up, and Mary J. Blige shows up, and they do like this whole big fucking expansive version of "Walk This Way."
Yeah.
And it was really cool. It showed you just who the big stars were at the time. Aerosmith was still hanging on, and then you had like fucking NSYNC, really Justin Timberlake, and Britney Spears also coming up. And it was a really fun performance. In fact, here's a little time machine moment for you. This was right when Kazaa was a big thing. Remember Kazaa, the heir apparent to Napster, where you'd go in and you'd illegally download all the fucking music and shit. Like, within days of the Super Bowl happening, somebody had ripped the audio, and there's an MP3 of this that was available on Kazaa that I immediately downloaded, and I still have that fucking file to this day.
Yo,
I went through my old MP3 files and I found it today.
That's funny. I legitimately have I maintain an iTunes account on this Mac Mini that's over here. It has all of those MP3s, all the old Napster shit, all that shit. I will always have to maintain that so that I can have that shit.
Yeah.
So I'm an Aerosmith fan. I really enjoyed Aerosmith. I looked at that Super Bowl as like, oh, cool, Aerosmith's going to be part of it. The fact that there was NSYNC and like, to me, Britney's appearance in it just seemed a little bit forced. Like, I wanted more out of it. Like, I really wanted more out of that era. I wanted more out of Aerosmith, honestly.
Well, yeah, but when you have that many people, you just don't have the time.
Right. And that's sometimes, and there's a lot of these artists, if we like kind of went through every single one of these, we could talk about how when they get these big stage performers on there, it's like, okay, this person by themselves would be phenomenal. But now let's shove every relevant artist in there. Like, let's make sure we get the pop genre in there. We get rock people, like trying to appease everybody. And you only have fucking 15 minutes or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they try and do too much sometimes. And that Aerosmith one was one of those. I went back and watched it because I'm like, oh, I remember the Aerosmith one. I was so looking forward to that when it came out. And then I realized like why it kind of didn't make my list. But dude, I can totally appreciate it though. Talk about artists that are just so fucking like Justin Timberlake is one of those people that's good at every fucking thing they do.
Yeah.
I mean, he just is. He's a scratch golfer. He's fucking plays all these instruments. He's been in all the big bands. He's big by himself.
He's been in all of the big females.
Yes, exactly. The dude's been around. He had Janet Jackson's fucking tit in his hand, for God's sake. So, I mean, the guy doesn't get much bigger. But yeah, so I totally appreciate. But yes, very surprised. I wouldn't have put that in your top 10.
Yeah. No, but that's it. That's number one. That's one that I have like some of the strongest memories about. And maybe it was just that time in my life. I don't know, but that was my number one. So moving on to yours. What is your number one? Sure.
All right. So I'm going to take you back to 2002. Okay. The artist was U2. And so I'm a U2 fan. I like U2. I just got goosebumps too because I'm thinking about the show. This was the kind of, it's post 9/11, like big everything. Like the Super Bowl had all of this patriotic energy, right? And U2 came on there to perform, which obviously they select the performer well before. I don't know when they're selected. Probably in the summer, probably before the Super Bowl. They start hyping all that shit up. So you have U2, which is a traditionally Irish band, but it was one of the biggest bands out there at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And known for big shows, right? U2 gets on there, and the scene, the song, when they're playing Streets Have No Name, and you have the names, like they're scrolling all the names of everyone who died on 9/11 behind there. all while the Streets Have No Name is being played. Just that's like that does it for me.
Yeah.
It was big. It was one of those moments because we were all like, especially like for those of us in the military post 9/11, like our world changed so much. Jason and I were both,
everybody's world changed, not even just the military people, but it changed so much for the country.
Yeah, but for us in particular, you think about what that meant, like what that day meant for what our lives are going to look like going forward. Like we both deployed pre 9/11, right? We remember what the world was like before then to be in the military, and then after that, like so much uncertainty, and it was the fact that like the Super Bowl was one of those things where I remember when baseball came back out and football started to play, and like just this nationalism that was happening, and U2 gets on there, does this fucking amazing rendition of Streets Have No Name, and like when he finishes it and he's got the fucking Bono opens up his jacket and he's got the fucking American flag inside it, like his is sewn into his jacket.
Yeah,
just fucking phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It was the perfect. Like they could have got on there, they could have played their hits kind of Rolling Stone style, but they made that moment. They made it something that I will always remember. And even going back and watching it on YouTube, it was just like, oh my god, like
yeah,
it was big. It was fucking big. So that's my number one.
That's great. Good list. And at this point, there's probably a couple people out there going, wait a minute. You guys missed one. There's one pretty big Super Bowl performance that you haven't even touched on. You haven't mentioned. We know.
Can I talk real quick about our others deserving mention?
Sure.
So I had two big ones. The Prince one was one of them because you can't not talk about it. The other one was the Paul McCartney one.
Oh yeah, I forgot he did one.
Yeah, Paul McCartney he did the Super Bowl. He did the Eagles Patriots Super Bowl in 04, I think.
Oh, the one or the Patriots one.
The Patriots one. The one I try and forget and push out of my memory. The ancient sweatshirt I'm wearing is from that era.
Mm-hmm.
The Paul McCartney one was he played the hits. He went out there, sat on a piano, played the hits. But what was cool about that show, and again, there's another one. If you subscribe to NFL and you just go and look in Super Bowl performances, they have like these little documentaries on the halftime performers, and it has the one with Paul McCartney. Watching that halftime show with the crowd, basically, na 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 na, like it had the entire stadium doing that, and it just was cool. It was just I couldn't put it on my list because there's so much bigger shows, but that one, obviously I was watching it because it's fucking Eagles Super Bowl.
Sure, yeah. All right, I didn't really write any honorable mentions in mine. It was just my top 5, and then of course the last thing that we're going to talk about, which again, everybody out there is like, hey, wait a minute. There's one very iconic national anthem that neither of us talked about, and that's because here's the deal. If we had included this in our lists, it would have been our number 1. So our lists were everything but this final performance that we're about to talk about. So let's go back in time, shall we? To the year was 1990, Super Bowl 25. Our country had just gotten involved in a little conflict out in the Middle East. Now, in the grand scheme of things, the Gulf War, it was really nothing, but it was kind of the start of like the bullshit that we'd start getting into, 9/11 and all of that and everything that followed. But for our generation, for people that are our age, this was our first experience with war in our country. Yes, we had the Cold War, the constant threat of the Russians nuking us and all that, but we never had any real active combat going on during our lives. So this was kind of our first experience with this.
Yeah, this is for a lot of Gen Xers whose parents were in the military at the time. Like, this is an all volunteer force that's being deployed
Yeah.
for the first time in our lifetime too. So now you get a whole generation of children that are their parents are going away.
Yeah.
So for that aspect, the Gulf War was short, but it was also, to me, it was the beginning of what being in a volunteer force really comes down to. Like, for us, right? We are members of the military, or former members of the military, that we participated in all volunteer force. There was no drafts. There was nobody. Everyone that was there, raised their right hand and volunteered to be there of their own volition.
Yep.
And this was the first time where that's really prevalent. And it also was the first time we got to really punch somebody in the fucking face. In your face!
Yep.
Just like, here's all the fucking bombers. Here's the stealth fighter. Like, yeah, you think you can see me? No, you can't. Like, throwing all this air power and just really just punching a motherfucker in the face. And this is when the United States was like, we're gonna flex on everybody right now.
And patriotism was at an all-time fucking high. Like, everybody came together. This, like, I don't recall there being any political aspect to this. Like, everybody in fucking Hollywood, everybody in the entertainment industry, everybody in politics, everybody kind of rallied behind, the troops and the cause, and we all kind of came together in this weird way that I don't know if it'll ever happen again, quite frankly. Maybe, well, September 11th, we had some pretty big patriotism going on after that.
But this was like the yellow ribbon. Like, remember, yellow ribbons were everywhere. Like, for Operation Desert Storm, like, everything there was all the trees in the neighborhood had yellow ribbons on it. And let's face it, like, this is the 30 year or 25 year? No, 30 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was 91. Yeah.
Yeah, so 30 years ago. So it was a big, like, for your Desert Storm vet and you're watching or listening to this right now, like, there's a huge conversation to be had about the war itself, and we're not trying to minimize that at all. But
we're just setting the stage.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, this was, you're talking about the post-Vietnam. We're not going to, like, these troops are going to go off, and they're not going to be forgotten. We're going to make deliberate efforts to, thank a veteran, be there when they get home, have homecomings and shit like that. This was the knee-jerk reaction to what happened to troops after Vietnam, because this was that conflict that kind of started this. Hey, it's good to be a fucking veteran.
Yeah,
honestly.
And this Super Bowl started within weeks of, I think, within a week or two of our ground troops actually hitting Kuwait, right? Yeah, we were liberating Kuwait from Iraq.
Exactly.
And the Giants and the Bills were going to the Super Bowl. You mentioned it early on in the show. When did I first start watching football all the way through for the first time? Super Bowl 25 was the very first Super Bowl that I watched start to finish. Now, I wanted the Bills to win. Sorry, Lunar Girl. But the Giants, the round before, had knocked out the 49ers in the NFC Championship, knocked Joe Montana out for 2 fucking years. So I was a little bit bitter at that point. So I really wanted the Bills to win this. But I tell you what, 30 years later, I've watched almost every Super Bowl since. To me, this is still the perfect Super Bowl. Just game itself, that Giants and Bills game, because you had this high-powered Bills offense, and you had fucking Bill Parcells and his fucking hard-nosed defense and his just fucking strong run game, and they slowed down the Bills enough to just fucking grind them out and to keep that lead, and then it all came down to that fucking Scott Norwood field goal attempt at the end that went wide right, and to me, it was still the perfect game. There were no turnovers in that game. I don't believe there were even any penalties in that game. It was pure old school fucking football. And even though I didn't want the Giants to win, looking back on it, it's still probably the greatest football game I've ever watched.
You make such a great point about that, because those were days, like, for us, as Eagles fans, you're talking about the Buddy Ryan defenses and when Reggie White was at his had his peak. And you went out there and you played the game as a defender to hurt somebody. If
Yeah.
you weren't, if you hit somebody, you meant the idea was to hurt them so that they would remember you and fear you the next time, especially for quarterbacks. So the protections for quarterbacks and wide receivers, they weren't there.
Yeah.
And it was just go out there and be these 22 gladiators on the field that are just going to keep fucking beating each other up until the very end. And like you said, it came down to a kick. Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, to start all of this off, all this patriotism going around, it was like the whole stadium was just filled with people like in red, white, and blue, American flag colors, patriotism through the fucking roof. And they decided to bring out Whitney Houston to do the national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like to this day, I cannot watch that performance, like watch a video of it on YouTube without getting fucking misty-eyed.
Oh yeah.
I still can't watch it without, at least some small tears coming down. She fucking blew that performance out of the water. To me, greatest performance in the history of the national anthem now and ever will be. I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, you got Whitney Houston at her. This is Whitney at her fucking peak.
Yep.
This is, I think, the Bodyguard movie came out like almost like the next year, the year after.
Yes,
right?
yeah. So this was before "I Will Always Love You," but yeah,
Right.
she had a bunch of hits leading up to that.
Well, obviously,
but it was clear she was already very talented.
Very talented, but her actress like debut, that like it's kind of how big she was. Like the voice, the range on this woman's voice was just unfucking believable.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you can appreciate this because you're a Mariah Carey fan, so you know all about these ranges, which I'm surprised Mariah Carey National Anthem didn't make it some.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that great.
So,
like, I mean, you compared to Whitney, nothing compares to Whitney.
No,
period. Like, this is the best performance ever. It
is the gold standard. And what's really funny about it, like watching it a couple times today, again, this is like, the national anthem is supposed to make you feel some kind of way, right? So in the beginning of this, it starts out, where her singing with the orchestra, like this is an orchestra on the fucking like, behind her, not a dubbed over fucking over the PA system fucking track. This is an orchestra is in the building, and it starts out pretty normal, and then like kind of drops down and goes boom, and just it just pulls you straight up, and like with their just how big the voice is. Yeah, it was fucking crazy. Yep. It was absolutely crazy.
And it was so big at that point that they actually released a single of this that I think it hit #1 on the Billboard charts. And you remember cassette singles back in the day? I fucking bought the cassette single of that fucking national anthem performance. And so did a lot of other people, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I wonder if you could still get that single. Like if you went into iTunes right now, if you could buy the fucking single.
That's a good question. Why don't you check that? And I'm going to check to see if I can find the cassette single on eBay.
But yeah, you can't help but be moved. And honestly, it is now the gold standard. Like you have the like as far as national anthems go, like I didn't include national anthems in my top 5, just because obviously Whitney's at the top of that, and there's very few that even come close to that. So it wasn't worth including. But you have like the Carrie Underwood one, which with Carrie Underwood, like early on was good, like kind of I think along the same lines as the Faith Hill one. But you have these artists when Pink did it before the Super Bowl, the Eagles Super Bowl when they won.
Yeah,
they're trying to get to that level. They're trying to make that like crescendo of just this amazing voice talent combined with the music, and just couldn't get there. And you're disappointed because like, oh, okay, all right, we're trying to do this, and it's the Everest of national anthems, trying to match what Whitney did.
Yep. And don't even bother. You know, do something different, but don't try to match it or best it because it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
I will say, like Whitney, hands down, top one. You have a single vocalist doing it. I was, in doing the research, I decided to look back. The national anthem for Super Bowl 39, which was the Eagles Patriots one, part one.
uh,
If you go back and watch that, they had Michael Douglas doing like this introduction for everybody, right? So they had, and I remember vaguely this going on because we were at Chris Houseworth's house for the Super Bowl. Like he had this big Super Bowl party for everybody in the unit. So we were at his house, and I remember like people are doing their thing and talking and everything, and it's getting ready to start. And they had the service academy choirs from all the service academies. So you had the West Point, you had the Naval Academy, you had the Air Force Academy, you had the Coast Guard Academy, and then you had the trumpeters from the Marine Band, like the President's own Marine Band, I think. And so you had this like this vocal chorus to do the national anthem, which I just enjoyed that particular rendition. But it was the side stuff that before they even started singing. You had all these World War II vets that came out. They had survivors from Iwo Jima. They had the Tuskegee Airmen. They had Medal of Honor winners. They had for what they had the Wave the Waves, which is the in World War II, they were the women that could serve in the Navy. They were called Waves, and they had like representatives of that organization that were there. So it has all this World War II stuff built into that, which obviously is kind of a big deal for me. And then you get all these people in the field. Then they brought Bill Clinton and fucking G Dub, the original George W. out there or George Bush out there, and they're standing in the middle of it. And then like, okay, cue the service academy choirs to do a nice big rendition of the national anthem. And oh, by the way, I'm watching it and I'm looking at you got Eagles players, you got, a fucking young Tom Brady, on the side, seeing pictures of him, and nobody really like it's funny too, because you watch a Super Bowl where like Tom Brady's not the focal point, right? They had Terrell Owens on the sideline, Ike Reese, and a lot of these other players, and just watching it, and all the things happening at the same time. Like, wow, man, that was big. That was big. Not, it doesn't make the needle move like the Whitney one does.
Sure,
but
it's important for other reasons,
right? But for one that I saw, the World War II stuff combined with the fact it was the Eagles Super Bowl, combined with all the Service Academy choir and all that stuff, I think that was a really good one.
Right. And that's what you got to do. You got to do something different. You don't just like bring some current pop star out there and try to out vocal Whitney, because it ain't going to happen. So you got to do something.
Do we know who's doing the national anthem this weekend?
I do not know. Jamie, look that up, or the halftime show for that matter. I don't know who the fuck's doing anything.
Oh, I think the weekend is the halftime show.
It's Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you're serious?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, the weekend. And apparently,
they're running out of band names.
He has this. He has one of his songs that I think is big on TikTok, right? So it's like it's playing to that audience. But apparently, like the dude did some weird shit to his face. Like there was a lot of like memes out there showing like he did this. It almost like looks like Jim Carrey in The Mask, like when he had the mask on. Like kind of like just a little bit bigger face, like cartoonish.
Kind of like Wayne Newton now. You seen his face?
Bigger. Like I've seen Wayne Newton in person, like in an airport. But by the way, he looks like he should be in the Wax Museum. Like, he just does. No, but bigger, like just big cartoon head. Just weird.
Now the weekend, is that the name of a person or a band?
Is it the name of the person?
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe they can.
Well, if I ever become big, I'll be the mouse pad. That's what.
Oh my god, what are we doing? National anthem. We really need a producer. What the fuck?
I know.
Anthem.
Dragon Buddy is saying names that mean nothing to me in the chat. Jasmine Sullivan and Eric Church. What is that? Who are these people? Are they sportscasters?
Oh no, okay. The national anthem will be a duet performed by Grammy-nominated artists, not Grammy Award winners. Nominated.
Just nominees.
Jasmine Sullivan and Eric Church.
And who the fuck are these people? I've never heard of them in my life.
Pop sounding people. Fuck you, Big Lovin'.
Yeah.
You're in this group. You might be at the aft end of the fucking the Gen X. How you doing? But yeah, you're in the group.
So I think that pretty much closes up this episode. Who you got in the Super Bowl? Now you're going for the Chiefs, aren't you?
I got the Chiefs by 10.
Yeah.
I really I think this Tom Brady look, it's remarkable, right? You had Tom Brady who's going to his 10th Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were talking about it last week. We beat it to death, but probably you know what I don't like? Tom Brady is not the greatest athlete of all times. He's not.
That's got to be Jordan, right?
Well,
like if you're talking dominating your sport.
Well, that's the thing. Like if you're talking about greatest athlete, or you're talking about greatest to play your sport, there's huge differences there.
I mean, biggest athlete, that could be like a runner or some other fucking like Olympic person that you've never fucking heard of.
Oh, think of what Bruce Jenner was as a decathlete. Back in those days, the motherfucker did everything. There's being the absolute best at your sport, which Tom Brady for the quarterback position. There's certainly far more athletic people in the NFL than Tom Brady. Than Tom Brady ever will be. I mean, even
right again, you got to make some context to the statement, right?
But to say that he's the greatest athlete ever, I don't know. I can't get there. For a quarterback to be able to be even considered in that conversation, I think there's a level of athleticism that we're not going to see. Just because the quarterback position is so centralized. Like, okay, this is how you run this particular offense. And running quarterbacks
protected too. They're protected quite a bit.
Yeah.
So but, I mean, when somebody makes a statement like that, they're probably talking more in reference to their domination at their particular position or in their particular sport.
But that's the thing. Like the pundits and the talking heads are out there talking like, "Oh, great, Tom Brady is the greatest athlete of our time." And
I call bullshit on that.
No, there's no way. I mean, is he will we ever see somebody as good as him in the Super Bowl era to go to fucking Super Bowl 10 times and to win it 6 of those 10 times? You fucking kidding me? No.
I can't see it.
There's no way. There's no way. And so, yes, he deserves to be put on that pedestal, but greatest athlete of all time? I don't think so. Yeah. And the reality is this team, they got here playing the Packers were the challenge. They should have beat the Packers. The Packers just did not play well. Their defense is just sus enough that they couldn't hold the magic of Tom Brady. But Brady looked good in that fucking game last week. He looked good. Like his first half was real good. The second half, you're not going to have a second half like that against the Chiefs. You're going to lose.
Oh yeah.
Like you just are. You have to be able to go pound for pound with the Chiefs offense. And unless you're going to try and put Mahomes in a fucking hurt locker, then
that's probably what they're going to have to do, honestly, if they want to try to win that game. Me personally, though, I'm pulling for a Tampa upset. I want to see them win. Yep.
I'm still on the same reason I voted or was rooting for the Chiefs with Andy Reid to win his first one. I think going back to back, I think would be pretty. You're talking about Andy Reid in the same conversations, in the Super Bowl era as a Bill Belichick. Like the coaching tree that Andy Reid has been around long enough to generate. There's what was like in this playoff, like in the wild card round, I think that like there was 4 out of 10 coaches all came out from underneath Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was something ridiculous like that. And it's just a testament to how good he was when we had him in the Eagles and won all those NFC championships. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But, that level of winning. And then to take that same mentality and bring it to another city with one of the an insanely talented quarterback in Mahomes, and you have some people like Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, like those level of offensive players gonna be really hard to beat. And really hard to beat. And I don't think they can do it.
But at the same time, it's going to be really hard for Kansas City to keep that together for the next few years. Like they better enjoy all the success they're getting now because
Mahomes is young. Mahomes is young,
and they've got him locked up. But I mean, are you going to have the rest of the team locked up? You're going to have to constantly figure out how to keep that revolving door.
Hey, nothing keeps players happy like winning. If you're gonna contend and win in the Super Bowl, you're gonna keep a lot of players. Yeah. That's for sure.
All right, we've got people debating Brady in the chat. Kristen's in there talking him up as she always does. So
yeah.
Anyway, I think that's it for this week. So next week we have decided we're going to do a video game episode. In fact, we did some polls in our private Facebook group, the Sidebar Cantina. And first I asked everybody, what console do you want to see a game from? A majority of the votes went to the NES, the old Nintendo Entertainment System. Then I'm like, okay, you guys want the NES. Now, which game do you want? I gave a bunch of options. I left it open for other people to write in their own options. The Legend of Zelda was the clear winner in that poll. So next week, we are going to talk about the original Legend of Zelda here on the show, much to Dave's dismay. Clearly, he does not like that game. He made that very apparent to me, but I am imploring you, give it a try again. Just try playing it a little bit. You don't have to get too deep into it. Give it another chance. Come in next week with some fresh ideas, and we'll talk about the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, you know what? This show would be really boring if I just agreed with you on all the fucking video game shit.
Right.
I think I have to take the contrarian view just to fucking make it interesting.
Okay, fair enough.
But that's going to be easy for me because I'm not a Legend of Zelda guy.
Right.
So I will, in fairness to the listener of the podcast, I will do my due diligence and I'll play a little bit of it either via the NES Classic or I have an emulator, which I have Zelda available in the emulator, so I could always do that.
Yeah, it's very easy to get a hold of.
Yeah, I do. I owe Bronco Fett a quote, which maybe I'll save it to the end.
This is the end. So
for the sign off.
For the after show?
For the for the sign off. It needs to be part of the pod.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, what happened to Ivo, man? What's going on in Bulgaria? He can't fucking get logged in here.
I hope he didn't get COVID or something.
Oh, and before we move on, because we're doing a shitty job right now, you have to follow us at GenXPOV on the Instagram. We have the newest member of the Starkiller Studios family is working her ass off to get our social media presence bigger, just daily content and everything else. Our good friend Luna Girl, she's handling our social media stuff for right now. So please support her, support us, follow at GenXPOV. If you are listening to us via the All Things Star Wars Network through that podcasting channel, thank you, A, for being a listener, but B, stop it and fucking go in and find From a Gen X Point of View podcast on your iTunes, your Google Podcasts, your Spotifys, your Audibles, however you can do it. Find From a Gen X Point of View. Subscribe to us. Do all the good things. Leave us 5-star reviews if you can possibly do that. That would be fantastic. That helps us out a lot. And if you're watching us on YouTube right now and enjoying the show, and if you hang on a little bit, there'll be some post show afterwards. Find From a Gen X Point of View on YouTube, and then when you get there, smash that like button, hit the subscribe, hit the little bell, so you can catch us on Monday evenings at around 6 p.m. Eastern. If you hit that little bell, you'll get a notification when we go live. And if we have a little show in the middle of the week, maybe Jason gets on there and does something. Maybe I do something, which probably not. But you get a little notification that says that we're live. And by doing that, it helps us out to entertain you. Oh, and by the way, follow our friends too. The Escape Pod.
Yep. Which they're doing a Super Bowl episode this week also, Wednesday night.
As
talking Super Bowl memories. So I'll be curious to hear what they have to say about that.
Yes, absolutely. And follow the Used Abused podcast as well. You can find them on all the major podcasting outlets. You can follow Keith Layman's Terms. He's on Facebook exclusively. So if
Yep.
you're on the Facebook, go look for Keith Layman, the no longer reigning champ of our fantasy football, since somebody in this group usurped him. And and then follow Big Swede, his multitude of channels. Yes,
Indeed.
All of the Gen X Point of View podcast family, go and support them, but mainly support us because we're better.
Yes, we are the best around. Nothing's gonna ever bring us down. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching on the YouTube. Thank you everybody for listening on the audio. We will be back next week with The Legend of Zelda. After that, we're covering The Silence of the Lambs 30th anniversary, and then after that we have something else, which I can't remember. But the Mars lander is going to be landing.
Mars,
and we're going to talk about that. Yeah, Mars, Mars, bitches. That's where we are going. Mars, Red Rocks.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And remember, everything we told you today was true from a Gen X point of view.
In the brightest day, in the darkest night, I'll tell you what, that boy ain't right. Let those who worship charcoal's might beware my power, propane's light. Okay, now what do I click?
All right. Before we go on with the after show, give me about 20 seconds of silence so I can see the break in the audio, because I have to rip the audio from here. Anyway, just give me about 20 seconds of silence starting now. All right. And we're back.
See, I had one thing I like about having this mic in particular, even though it doesn't sound as good as our studio mics, it has a mute button on it.
Nice.
And it's like this big green circle. So I know, like, especially when I'm in a Zoom call and I don't feel like Control-ang. Can't hear a dog barking in the background while we're trying to do silence.
All right. I have to piss. I'll be right back.
All right. I'll entertain the folks. Yeah, how was that, Bronco Fett? Was that good? Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me, because I totally would have forgot. And for those of you, like, we got a Hank as Green Lantern here. I'm sure you picked up on that anyway, but that was pretty fun. Oh Lordy, what is happening? A lot of Tiger text messages from my wife. Wonder what that means. But yeah, what's the haps? What's going down? Thank you, Luna Girl. I'm happier with this setup I have in the house now, especially like for doing the pod, because I'll have to see how it sounds like listening back to it, but the way I'm situated, I think, is a little bit better. Has not quite as much open room sound, I'm hoping. So, in the absolute worst case, I could always drop like like hang a drop cloth or something and enclose the area a little bit more. But we don't. This is I don't know. Obviously, this is non-standard because of the weather, which makes a lot of sense. And Jason's mic did not go out. We think we got that sorted. We think we got the mic issue sorted. Jason figured out what was going on with that. I think
what's going on?
No, we were talking. Luna Girl said that your mic didn't go out, and I think you got it sorted. What was causing that issue?
Yeah, pretty much when I move it like this, it'll sometimes go out.
Yeah, it starts loosening up. So
Yeah, I think it messes with this connection.
Yeah,
So-
so it was good. All right, I'm gonna pee now.
All right. Bronco Fett has never seen Silence of the Lambs. Dude, I don't know if you're into that kind of dramatic, kind of semi-horror, gory movie, but the movie itself is incredible. Really, really good movie. And we got to figure out where it's streaming because it was on Amazon Prime for the longest time, but it's not anymore. So it's got to be streaming somewhere. In fact, I'm going to Google it right now. Silence of the Lambs streaming. Hulu? Let's see. Silence of the Lambs. Oh, you have to have the Showtime add-on. All right, let's go back to Google. Amazon Prime. I looked for it on Amazon Prime earlier today. Didn't see it. Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, it's not on here. All right, well, that Google search is bullshit. YouTube for $3.99, iTunes for $3.99, Vudu. Man, there is really no place to stream it for free right now. Yeah, it's not on Netflix.
Oh, that hurt.
So they do this shit on purpose. Whenever there's like an anniversary coming up, they'll pull it from fucking streaming services.
Yeah, because they want you to pay the extra couple of nickels to get it.
Yeah. So we'll have to figure out.
Tom, if you can see it, like I will say, I'm not a horror guy, right?
I wouldn't consider it a horror movie though.
Well, you wouldn't because you're into horror movies, whereas for me, there's an element to it that might lead somebody down that way. I think that it's a drama. It's like it's a crime drama, so it has those elements. If you're into those types of movies, then I think you'd enjoy it. I like honestly, Silence of the Lambs is not really in my my circle as far as movie watching goes. Like
I have seen it though, right?
I have seen it, yeah.
Okay.
And I tried to watch the second one. I wasn't nearly as much.
The second one was terrible.
But yeah, so for me, as being like I think most people, especially like Bronco Fett, you've been watching us for years now. You kind of get an idea of like what my taste is for a lot of that stuff, and even I enjoyed Silence of the Lambs. I thought it was a good movie. Yeah. Anthony Hopkins is fantastic in it. Jodie Foster is Jodie Foster. When did Contact come out? I'd love to do Contact.
Contact was late 90s, like 98. 97, I think. I think that came out before I met Kristen because I saw it with a dude I worked with when I was in maintenance. Good God call. Damn it, I'm good.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We should at some point this year, I think we need to put in a thing on the show kind of regarding our 25th anniversary of enlistment.
Oh, that's true. Oh, fuck. Oh, my God. Mine is in 4 days. Fuck. I completely thought to... very funny, Kristen. No, I completely forgot to mention something on the show. God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we could do... we could do something... Because mine's in June. My anniversary's in June.
Okay.
So... maybe we can split the difference.
There you go.
Way. But yeah, just kind of have a reflective episode about our history.
Yeah.
Some kind of way make that. If we just did a half of talk about it in our weeks.
Yeah. God damn, 25 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
So that would be I was the 6th. So I would have gotten on that bus and left Bakersfield on the 4th. Yeah, because I left Bakersfield, got on a bus. They drove me to MEPS in Fresno. Spent 2 nights there before we got to Texas. Yeah, for boot camp.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. This town, so Runnymede has has a bunch of hotels, right? Because we have a stop off the turnpike, right? Exit 3. So you get a lot of traffic, like come race weekend because of Dover Speedway. Like a lot of the hotels, owe their livelihood to race weekends and shit like that. Well, there's a big multi-story Holiday Inn. It used to be a Holiday Inn in town. Like
Right.
it's like 8-10 stories, something like that. It kind of dominates the skyline when you're kind of rolling through town. It's since closed, but that's where almost everybody that came out of New Jersey went and processed through the MEP station and then ended up at that Holiday Inn and then went from that Holiday Inn to the fucking to the airport. I did not have to because I lived in town. So
you were local.
Yeah, and I was 21. So they weren't worried about me getting into trouble or anything. It was like, okay, you're allowed to, you can fuck off. Plus, I had when I left. So for me, I left January 2nd of '97. I enlisted in June, but I had that time before I left. So yeah, that getting on the bus or getting on the plane was January 2nd. So it was right after the New Year, and then I spent that time in Lackland. But it is just crazy to think about how long ago that was.
Yeah.
Robbie Fenn enlisted in October of '95.
Okay, so I was attempting to go to college at that point.
Yeah.
Graduated high school in '95. Figured, all right, I'm supposed to go to college now, right? All right, let's do that. And clearly, that didn't work out.
I'd already given up on college in '95.
Yeah.
I was working at the airport as a baggage handler, and then also working as like a shift supervisor to CVS. So I was working a lot, and started dating Kathleen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that same time. So yeah, fucking these. Holy shit! The fact that these so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rick. So my cousin Rick's in there. Yeah, you would have to because you went through 2 kind of basic trainings. Because he was in the Marines and then he got out and then went back into the Coast Guard. So didn't join a real branch. Oh yeah, right. I'm pretty sure that the hate that happens between all the other branches in the Air Force are mainly due to the fact that they made poor life choices and ended up in something other than the Air Force. I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb.
Mm-hmm.
And the Coast Guard's not even a real branch. I mean,
No, it's not.
You and your DHS, whatever's. But that's a whole separate conversation. Did you see that the Space Force released their rank structure?
I did.
The Guardians released their rank structure, so they're not. They have specialists.
Yeah, and it's just numbers: specialist 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
it's great.
They were. There was a huge push that I didn't know about to try and make the naval rank structure for them, and then like kind of coinciding with like how Star Trek was, space travel was more associated with the Navy. So they were trying to push to have the Navy do it. In fact, one of the Congressman Dan Crenshaw, who's a Navy SEAL. He's the guy you see. He's got one eye, like wears the eye patch. He was one of the ones that was kind of pushing for like, yeah, let's should have the Navy rank structure, and it got William Shatner on board. Apparently, there was all the thing, but they fucked off and ignored that.
Yeah.
Which honestly, it makes more sense to me if they're actually going to travel in space, which. Pretty sure the Space Force is going to never leave low Earth orbit in any stretch.
Probably not.
I mean,
probably not.
Knowing what we know, but yeah.
But I mean, in the long run, that may be Trump's legacy. Like he was thwarted at pretty much everything else he tried to do, but he got the Space Force going. So. That could be the one accomplishment that he can always, hang his hat on throughout the years.
I guess he's hanging his hat on the fact that he signed my retirement
I know, which for me now it's going to be probably whoever. Yeah, if I stay for chief and I try to retire as chief, it's going to be whoever wins the next presidential election.
Which that's crazy.
Yeah.
You had a break in service, but like you think about it, how many presidents you would have served under?
I mean, it started with Clinton, like the Clinton's first term.
Yeah.
Um,
I have Slick Willie, I have George Bush, I got Trump. The only thing, because when you retire, you get these letters from those presidents. You have to apply at the presidential libraries, so I need one more for Obama. But every one of those presidents was a 2-term president, which is insane.
yeah.
Except for Trump, but
Yeah. So anyway, got anything else for the masses before we sign off?
no, I think let's see, we're doing Zelda.
Which, by the way, I don't even know if I'm going to work yet. It's after 8 p.m. and they still haven't announced whether or not they're going to close the fucking base tomorrow.
Well, the base had their snow meeting is at 8:00. So it's 8 right now. So you should be hearing something probably in the next 40 minutes or so. I can tell you that the base is already they're already canceled flying and all that shit. So
okay.
I would anticipate I can tell you right now, ground training is canceled. My squadron's at 100% telework. Boo. Yeah, so right now we're assuming that Tuesday is already accounted for, and then potentially Wednesday. I'm going to be teleworking with Tuesday and Wednesday, no matter what. So for us, it's going to be happen on Thursday because it's supposed to snow a lot into tomorrow.
Yeah, I know they're just itching to get me back into the office though, so we'll see. See what happens. But it just sucks that I'm going to bed in less than an hour and I still don't fucking know if I have to drive to work tomorrow or not.
Yeah.
So it sucks.
You'll find out. If you're in bed within an hour. Like I said, last night we got all our notifications at like 8:40. By 8:40, the squadrons were starting to notify. So yeah, that's all I can tell you. If they're even basing it on, because we know that the unit likes to ignore what the base is doing anyway.
It's fact. Yep. Alrighty, well, let's end this now because I've got to try to get this posted. I gotta go have my last meal of the day, and eventually start getting ready.
Close to like before you go to bed.
Oh yeah, 7 times a day I have to eat right now.
Doesn't affect your heartburn at all?
Surprisingly, no. Like I haven't actually had issues with that in quite a while, which is good.
Your wife said you can't drive to work because she blocked your car.
Yeah,
you probably should go deal with that before you go to bed.
That is true.
Otherwise, tomorrow morning you're going to be fucking cussing at it.
All righty. Well, thanks again, everybody, for sticking around for the after party. But it is time to go, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Legends of Zelda.
See you, everybody.
Peace.